Please welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. Josh Lippy, Principal Barry Spencer, and Dr. James Holton. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by Secretary of Education Lamar Alexander.
Good morning. President Bush, Secretary Alexander, Dr. Holton, faculty, staff, and students of the Norristown Area School District, and guests, it is quite an honor for me to welcome you to Norristown Area High School for the beginning of the 1992-93 school year. A special thanks for this larger-than-life school opening is extended to our Chamber of Commerce, our Business Industry School Partnership Program members, and our Greater Norristown 2000 volunteers. Your efforts have already provided for numerous scholarships, much-needed equipment, and a sincere concern for the educational success of all of our students. Last evening, my wife, Jeannie, down here in the front row, took our dog for his daily walk. Upon seeing one of our neighbors, they discussed, in the presence of 3 young children, how exciting it was for the president to visit our high school on opening day. On Jeannie's return home, the neighbor called to her to tell her that her 5-year-old son, Andrew, who attended kindergarten for the first time yesterday, said that he hopes that when he starts high school, President Lincoln visits them. President Bush, I think Andrew may be a little confused with all the facts, but I certainly believe that he is ready to learn, and that is what we hope to be the case in the future for all students, not only in the Norristown Area School District, but also in the entire United States, if not the entire world. Now I would like to introduce to our Norristown audience a national education leader who is a Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Vanderbilt University the former president of the University of Tennessee, the governor of Tennessee from 1979 to 1987, the 1988 recipient of the James B. Conant Award for Distinguished National Leadership in Education, and since January 22, 1991, the United States Secretary of Education. Please welcome Lamar Alexander.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Spencer and Dr. Holton, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, last Tuesday evening, there was a remarkable event that happened in this United States of America, and Norristown was part of it, and the President of the United States was part of it. It was the largest satellite town meeting in the history of the country, so far as we were able to tell. More than 2,500 communities working together, hooked up electronically by satellite in their hometowns, working toward the national education goals. You made a special effort to be a part of that in Norristown, and I can tell you the President did too. He began that day on the telephone with the superintendent of schools in Miami, talking about the hurricane disaster there, then went there, then to Louisiana, got back to Washington, and at 9 p.m. called our town meeting. Our amplifier didn't work, so he didn't get through. He called back at 9:30. He gave that town meeting something that only a president can give it. In just a few minutes, the President will be introduced to you, and if I don't miss my guess, he'll do what he often does. He's here to celebrate you and your efforts in education, especially on this first day of the school year, Norristown 2000, to change our schools and change America. But what's important to be said is that it takes both Norristown and the President of the United States for things to happen. Because there's some things only you can do and some things only he can do. Only a president could have helped set the 6 national education goals with your governor. Only a president could have challenged America to create America 2000 communities like Norristown 2000. Only a president could have persuaded more than 2,500 communities to be part of a monthly satellite town meeting. Without a president's involvement, we wouldn't be having world-class math standards by 1995 or a national examination system. So the president won't talk about all of that. He undoubtedly will talk about you. But what I wanted to say to you was our compliments for being a part of America 2000, for being here today and for giving us a chance to come, and congratulations for being a part of a very important partnership to change America by changing our schools. There are some things only a community can do, and Norristown is doing those things. And there are some things that only a president can do, and President Bush is doing those things. Thank you very much.
It is a great honor to have with us today, of course, the President of the United States and the United States Secretary of Education, the Honorable Lamar Alexander. In this community, we are totally committed to the goals presented by America 2000 and the 6 national goals as formulated by the President and the governors of this country in Charlottesville in 1989. We have 6 fifth graders here today who will be graduating in the year 2000. They would now like to read the 6 national goals.
Goal 1. By the year 2000, all children in America will start school ready to learn.
Goal 2. The high school graduation rate will increase to at least 90%.
Goal 3. American students will be competent in challenging subject matter, including English, math, science, history, and geography. Goal 4. U.S. students will be first in the world in science and math.
Goal 5. Every adult will be literate, able to compete in a global economy, and exercise the rights and responsibilities of citizenship.
Goal 6. Every school in America will be safe, disciplined, and drug-free.
That's the class of 2000, Norristown Area High School. Very proud of them. In my brief remarks today, I would just like to say that America 2000 has been a catalyst enabling the Norristown area school districts to share in a common nationwide effort to do 4 basic things. Number 1, to improve today's schools, to make them better and more accountable. Number 2, to create a new generation of American schools. Thirdly, to go back to school ourselves, recognizing that learning is a lifelong process. And fourthly, to make our communities places where learning can happen. In Norristown, our overall focus has been on the student as thinker, educator as learner. We believe that this focus is in keeping with the ultimate goal of providing all Americans with the best education in the world, world-class standards. That's what we're shooting for. At this time, I would like to extend my greetings and to express my strongest support for the students of the Norristown Area High School and the East Norton, Eisenhower, and Stewart Middle Schools, and the entire student body in our district for your current and future participation in our Greater Norristown 2000 program. You are the reason why we are here today as we prepare ourselves for the 21st century. In the way of brief acknowledgments, I would like to thank Mr. Payson Burke, President of the Central Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, which has been the prime mover of our Greater Norristown 2000 efforts. Payson, thank you. And a quick listing, Business and Industry School Partnership Program under the leadership of Mrs. Betty Palumbo, the Greater Norristown Corporation, to the governmental leaders here today on national, county, borough of Norristown levels, East Norton and West Norton, to the Board of School Directors of the Norristown Area School District, and to the volunteers, and we have many of them here today, who will be dedicating their time and efforts working with us on Greater Norristown 2000, to Dr. John Gould and our staff, Assistant Superintendent of Schools and Facilitator of the district's New America Schools project, and to the other distinguished guests gathered here today. I would especially like to thank Dr. Kay Wright. Kay, would you stand just a minute? She's Regional Representative of the United States Department of Education, who has been extremely supportive and encouraging from the very beginning as we prepared for the New America Schools project. Dr. Wright, thank you very much. And thank you finally to the administrators, teachers, and others who have been so instrumental in the preparation of this most historic event. So, Mr. President, thank you very, very much for honoring us with your presence here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to welcome the President of the United States of America.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Holton. Thank you, Dr. Holton. And may I congratulate our superintendent for his leadership on America 2000 and on the job he's doing for the whole school system in this area. Good morning to everybody. It's great to be back in Pennsylvania on this first day of school. Any excuse to get out of class? I know. And here you all are. Thanks for greeting me. And may I salute the man you heard from a minute ago, Secretary Alexander, Lamar Alexander. He's come to Washington
after great experience in education and in government and leading us all with this marvelous America 2000 program. We owe him a great vote of thanks, and I'm very pleased to have him with us. And another old friend is with us today, the congressman from this district, Larry Coughlin, who's leaving the Congress after marvelous service, but he came in with us. Larry, do you want to stand up there? And may I thank all involved with this visit, particularly Principal Barry Spencer, who's done a great job on all the arrangements and in making these facilities available. Josh Lippy, the president of the Student Council, I salute him as a student leader. And I should add, welcome back to school. I hope you all had a great summer. And out here in the audience are not just students, but members of the Chamber of Commerce, Payson Byrd, and others that are taking a leadership role. The class of 2000, I salute them, all of you, these participants who got up and read those education goals. I thought they did a first-class job, not a nervous one in the bunch. And I salute all the volunteers that make it happen as we try to reform education. I'll get to the teachers in a minute. I'm told that many of you were nervous this week. Tensions rising about the big event, wondering how you'll handle all the attention. Well, I'm here to put your fears at rest. I know you'll do great against North Penn Friday night. Now, anyway, I want to just give a serious talk this morning. Our world has been through a lot of change in the past few years. When my kids were the age of the kids in this room today, they used to practice nuclear disaster drills. The alarms would go off, and they would all crawl under the desks and wait. This happened all across the country, all across many countries. That doesn't happen anymore. As a parent and as a grandparent, I am glad that American kids can grow up in the sunshine of peace, and we ought to be grateful for that as a nation. But now that the Cold War is over, the challenge before our nation is to win the peace, to guarantee that America in the 21st century will be not just a military superpower, but also an export superpower, an economic superpower. And that's just a fancy way of saying that when you grow up, you deserve the chance to have a good job and live a better life than your parents and grandparents. And you should live the American dream. And that's why I'm here this morning, to talk about how we can build what you need and deserve, the very best schools in the entire world. Now, I admit education is not usually found on the front page of the newspaper or at the top of the evening news, but it is the solution for most of what you do see there. As a president and as a grandparent, my loyalty lies with young people, kids like these fifth graders who did such a fantastic job laying out these national education goals this morning. In the year 2000, these fifth graders will graduate from high school, and they will have changed so much we will barely be able to recognize them. And I want the schools from which they graduate to have changed so much that we won't be able to recognize them either. 4 years ago, I said I wanted to lead a revolution in American education. And today, I come before you to report the revolution is underway. As president, my job is to set the agenda and mobilize the nation. And I'm proud that the goals the students read this morning are the very first education goals in our nation's history. They were created by all the governors, Republicans and Democrats alike, and are being embraced by parents, by teachers, by business, and community leaders in town after town, city after city, all across America. Politics is being laid aside. A revolution in education is taking place. And if he were here today, I'd shake his hand and salute the governor of this state, who is holding out his hand to all who want to see America 2000 succeed. He's been a real leader, and we are grateful to him for that. Governor Casey, I've come to Norristown because you accepted my challenge to reinvent American schools. And again, I salute the principal and the superintendent. Norristown is in the lead, but you're not alone. Today, 1,700 communities in every single state have adopted the vision of what we call America 2000. 1,700 communities have drawn lines in the sand of the future that read, "Our children must be number one." The federal government should do more than offer congratulations, and we are matching our words with action, as we promised. You heard about our first goal, making sure every student arrives at school ready to learn. For the first time, every eligible 4-year-old who wants a head start on kindergarten can get one. We've asked for record increases in investment for math and science education to help train teachers. And that is consistent with goal number 4 that was read here, math and science excellence. And I bet you were proud to watch the Olympics and see Jordan and Ewing and Malone slam dunk the opposition. By the year 2000, I want you, our young people, to be able to slam dunk the rest of the world in math and science, and we can do it. Goal number five is to guarantee a skilled, literate workforce. My opponent accuses me of cutting education spending. That's just flat wrong. I have proposed record increases in education funding, and during my 4 years, federal investments in education have increased at a more rapid rate than state and local funding. But if you think that money alone will reinvent our schools, think again. As a nation, only Switzerland spends more per student on elementary and secondary education. This doesn't mean we should not make new investments. It means we cannot spend our money on the old way of doing things. Our schools were basically designed for another age, 100 years ago. A world of Model T cars in which toasters and flashlights were a big deal. A world in which most clothes were made at home. Imagine a world without the King of Prussia Mall. It's hard to believe. But today, if you apply for a summer job in a car factory, they'll ask you if you can handle mathematics, estimation, spatial relations, things your mom and dad just didn't have to know, and other things have changed. It's tougher being a parent, tougher being a teacher, and my grandkids tell me it's pretty tough being a kid these days. The world has changed, and so must our schools. You don't have to look far for new ideas. Teachers, school board members, parents, business leaders, all are fountains of innovation. They represent the true genius of America, and we must encourage them. And right now, as we gather today, America is responding to this charge. Really, 4 revolutions are underway. First, we are in the process of creating hundreds of what we call break-the-mold schools, schools that reject the status quo. For example, a school where students attend all year round. Now, I challenged America to come up with ideas for these schools, and Norristown was one of the 700 communities that responded. I applaud you for your energy. I applaud you for your creativity. Revolution number 2 has to do with what we teach in our schools. We must demand more of you so that you can compete in the world economy. Your math teachers, are already relying on new world-class standards, and you're learning more than your older brothers and sisters. And by the time today's fifth graders enter high school, we will have new standards in science, history, English, geography, civics, and the arts. And to support these standards, we will have a national examination system, and I call it the American Achievement Tests, so that parents can know how our kids in our schools are doing. The third revolution involves a very important person, your teacher. And if I can ask a favor, since this is the first day of school, I assume none of you have received any tests back yet, so let's take advantage of the good feeling and say thanks to all the teachers in this room. They're making a difference in your life, and we should applaud them, and I'd like to ask them to stand up. All the teachers here. Thank you all very much. And when your teachers, let me make this point to the students. When your teachers chose their career, they did it because they love learning, and they love helping you to live up to your potential. They certainly didn't do it for self-gain. They did it to help someone else. Not long ago, as part of my America 2000 effort, I met with some teachers up in the Lehigh Valley, and I asked them what was their biggest problem. And I thought they might talk about the lack of money or discipline or the drug problem, but they instead talked about all the paperwork and regulations about getting state government off their back. I cannot do much about Harrisburg, but this week Congress will consider my legislation to give teachers more flexibility in using federal funds as long as they achieve results. Congress wants to give flexibility to just 300 schools. I wanted to give it to all 110,000 schools. We ought to relieve these teachers of federally mandated paperwork requirements. I trust the teachers, not the government, to do what's right for our students. And there's one final revolution underway. I think every parent should have the right to choose the school they want for their children. Not long ago, I was talking with a Milwaukee parent. She and her kid came to the Roosevelt Room right outside of the Oval Office in the White House. Her name, Jeanette Williams. And she told me her son, Javon, went to a crowded school. Teachers couldn't pay attention to him. He was so bored. He'd just go home halfway through the day. And then Milwaukee gave some parents the right to choose new schools for their kids. And today, this kid, Javon, is doing his homework, attending all his classes, even helping clean up around the classroom. I want to hear more stories like that. And my GI Bill for kids would give $1,000 scholarships to children of middle and low-income families that they can use to spend on any school of their choice. Most parents would choose public schools, but every parent should be able to choose any school, public, private, or religious. Right here in Norristown, almost 6,000 kids, about 2/3 of the school population, would be eligible for this $1,000 scholarship. Norristown would receive another $6 million in new federal funds, not controlled by bureaucrats, but parents and teachers. And when it comes to choosing schools, I trust parents, not the government, to do the right thing. And so these are the 4 revolutions in American education: break them old schools, new standards, getting government off the teachers' backs, and giving parents real choice. Together, these revolutions will change our schools. And when these 5th graders come back to visit Miss Ritter and Miss Beeler, in 8 years from now, they will marvel at how small the desks are and at how they have to stoop way over to use the water fountain, but as they look and listen to the school around them, they will say everything else has changed. And now, as some of you may have heard, there's an election in about 55 days. So before I leave you this morning, I want to take just a moment and contrast my education vision with the opponents. I want to be fair. When I convened the National Education Summit, I mentioned it earlier in this speech with the governors present, most of the governors attended. Governor Clinton's role was constructive. He helped us set these national education goals, and I commend him for that. However, the facts tell the story about his own record. In 1980, Arkansas ranked 47th in the percentage of adults with high school diplomas, now 48th. Today, they're dead last in the percentage of adults with college degrees. But that's not the real issue. The real issue is what kind of education president would my opponent be? And in this campaign, Governor Clinton has spent a lot of time courting the education establishment, teachers, unions leaders, and the liberal Congress. And these people fear change. Look at the education before Congress today. They really don't want to spend more money on education. They want to spend it on the same old system. And I wish fixing our schools was that easy. It is not. And a president's job is to set a path and insist that the nation sticks to it. But Governor Clinton is in with the crowd who say no to break the mold schools, no to higher standards, no to less regulation, and no to my GI Bill for kids. And here's the difference between me and my opponent. He has told the education establishment what they want to hear, and I will continue to tell them what America needs to hear. You hear a lot of talk about change in this election, but ultimately change isn't what you say, it is what you do. And with your help and the help of millions of other Americans, we have set the forces in motion to literally revolutionize the way we prepare our young people. And I hope you will give me the opportunity to finish that revolution. And to the parents, teachers, community leaders, and students participating in Norristown 2000, I say thank you. You are writing a better chapter in the history of America's next generation. Thanks for listening, and may God bless each and every one of you in the state of Pennsylvania and the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Please stay in your seats, folks. Please be seated. We have a period of time right now where we are going to have some additional music from our band, but before we do that, we are going to ask Mr. Payson Burt to please come to the podium to give some information out to the members of the Greater Norristown 2000 program who are with us today. Payson?
All the Business Industry School Partnership board members and the America 2000 volunteers received a notice that we were to have our meeting today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, then something happened. So we postponed the meeting. Instead, we had one of the greatest kickoffs I think we've ever experienced by any America 2000 group. So what we've done with consultation with Betty Palumbo and the Business Industry School Partnership, we've postponed that meeting that was to be held at 3 o'clock this afternoon to 3 o'clock next Wednesday afternoon, and we will meet in the Norristown High School Library. Now, before you depart, I must let you know that we still have plenty of volunteer forms to be filled out. And if you were impressed by what was said today, we'll make sure you get on the team. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, the Secret Service Department has informed us that we must wait 5 to 10 minutes for the President to leave the grounds. So we appreciate your patience waiting, and for security reasons, please just enjoy your company, and we're going to have some music from the band, and the Secret Service will let us know when we can leave. And thank you all very much for coming today.